What's up, everyone? Welcome back to JulioG TV. Today, we have another episode of The Decree, have another special guest. Today, we have a business owner, entrepreneur, public speaker, husband, father, and of course, a great friend. Today, Joshua Phillips. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, man.
You bet, you bet. And also, guys, as you guys recall, The Decree is a show where I bring you the latest from a local, national, and global standpoint. Usually when it's just me, I focus a little bit more on the legal aspects. We try to bring that out with our guests, but typically that's what we do on The Decree. And, of course, we have the guest segment today. So, again, thanks for joining us, Josh. We appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks, man. Thanks.
You bet, you bet. So, just to get right into it, man, who is Josh Phillips? That's what we want to know, what you're currently doing, what's your background. So, where were you born and raised?
Sure. Yeah, I was born in Espanola, New Mexico. So, little background on me. I live in Rio Rancho right now. Grew up pretty much my whole life in northern New Mexico in Espanola. Actually, a little small town called Hernandez.
Okay.
And
yep.
Small town vibes, man. Very similar to people who grew up in all the other small towns around there, Penasco, Dixon, Alcalde. Just that's the northern life,
Right. Yeah, I know how that is. I mean, essentially, as I'm from the other side of the mountain, as we'll say sometimes,
yeah.
Up in Las Vegas. So I definitely get the small town life. So did you, where'd you go to school, essentially, maybe middle school, high school, wherever you want to start? Did you go to Espanola High?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I went to Espanola Valley High, middle school in Espanola as well. Sun Devils, man. Biggest school up north, I guess, 5A.
Yeah, I always thought that was interesting because, I played a little bit of sports, nothing crazy. They're always a bigger school than us, even though, we're both in northern New Mexico. So I was like, that's interesting. But
yeah, man, it's big. So, all the small towns kind of flowed into that high school. And
right.
I think that's what makes it bigger. So, but, I wish I had done more sports and played more sports because my class was pretty good, man. I'll give them that.
Nice. So you went to Espanola High, graduated there. Maybe just to back up a little, do you have any siblings?
Yeah. So I have a older brother and a younger sister, and I also have a half brother, half sister, that live in Washington. It's crazy. I didn't really know about them till I was almost a teenager. Or didn't really know of them.
Yeah.
I guess maybe a little younger, but
right.
Before it registered.
That makes sense.
We're really close in age too, so it's kind of crazy.
Where do you fall in the age group? Are you the oldest or?
I'm exactly middle.
You're the middle?
Yeah, on both ends too, so.
So you have two on one side and two on the other?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's brothers, sisters?
Yep. So one older brother, one younger sister on both ends. And
dang.
Middle child, man. So
heck yeah. Okay, and who are your parents? What did your parents do? I know you don't have to say their name, anything. Just for I'll let you as much as you want to say. What did your parents do? How was it kind of how'd you grow up essentially?
Yeah, man. So like a lot of people, we didn't grow up with a lot. I'm not gonna say we grew up with we didn't have it the worst for sure, but
right.
Definitely knew the struggle. Got to kind of see my mom, grew up and she was born and raised in northern New Mexico, lived there pretty much her whole life. And same thing with my dad. My pops he was in the Navy for a while, but I stayed with my mom. They split up when I was young, and they essentially just didn't have any communication, so I didn't really know I knew my dad, but I didn't know him. Like most people would like to, or most kids would like to. So he had a really bad drinking problem. So
right.
It just kind of kept him at a distance, But my mom's a single mom, she raised my sister and I, and my older brother lived with my grandparents. But I spent a lot of time with my grandparents too, so they were kind of that parent role as well.
Right.
Yeah. So both my parents grew up in that area. My mom, Espanola kind of area, and my dad, San Juan Pueblo. He was native from San Juan.
Nice. So, humble beginnings, so to speak, yeah, I know from, my experience, kind of typical northern New Mexico type lifestyle growing up,
Yep, yep,
of course, I always like to say, whether we had it hard or not, there's always worse.
for sure,
So
for sure.
definitely understand that. And I guess the next thing would be, who were you in high school? What type of kid were you? You playing sports, or doing, some other clubs or something else? Who was, Josh in high school?
Sure, man. I think everybody has their own idea of who they were in high school, but if I was a fly on the wall and I was looking at me, I
Yeah.
would say, man, I was kind of a lost kid, I was in between. I was a really good kid at heart, but I was just drawn to excitement of doing bad stuff sometimes, man. Indulging in the party life or indulging in experimenting with alcohol and drugs type of stuff. And
Right.
I mean, I was a good kid though. I tried to apply myself in school. School wasn't for me, man. I didn't like it.
Hmm.
Um, I couldn't sit there and grasp. It wasn't that I couldn't understand and I wasn't smart enough. I just didn't care, man. I just didn't care to be in that environment
Right.
and being taught that way. So, and it was almost like I felt like school was your babysitter. Like some people send their kids to school to babysit them while they
Yeah.
have to go to work. So
Yeah.
I just felt like it was just never going to be for me, and it wasn't. But I wish I had more time to play sports.
Uh-huh.
Financially, we just couldn't, afford all the gear and everything that goes into it, plus
Yep.
practice, like 0 hour. People need to be there at 6 o'clock. Like it just didn't work with people's schedules in my family, and,
Right.
and I didn't really have a vehicle in high school, so
No, I know how that is.
that
100%. Yeah.
that kind of sucks sometimes. But shit, man. I mean, other than that, I had a blast in high school. I just I had a lot more freedom than most kids. I was able.
Right.
I was a young kid at the parties with the older kids, and not saying that's a good thing, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I just got to kind of see the older life at a younger age, and it kind of helped me mature a little bit quicker, I would say.
Right. No, that makes sense. So in high school, when did you start, really, maybe going out to the parties? Were you skipping school at all? Anything like that? I mean, was it trickling into your school or were you still like, passing classes, all that type of stuff? Kind of how did that dynamic play together?
Yeah. So to kind of answer your question, so as far as school went, I've always had trouble, man. And it
Yeah.
just since elementary, it wasn't like it was something that I just had in high school. I
Right.
never failed. I never got held back. But
Right.
I would say that school had always been school. But as far as when I started, going out and doing older kids stuff, I would say I was probably like 12, 13, 7th grade, 8th grade type of deal.
Got it.
And yeah, man, I had older friends and they had cars, and we just go and hang out. And then it didn't.
In the lowriders or in the lowrider capital of the world, right?
I wish. Yeah, I wish, man. I wish some of my friends had lowriders. No, we just the basic old Honda Civic, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I know how that is.
whatever we could get our hands on, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, school. I would always show up. It wasn't a thing. I didn't. I would show up. I don't know why. What made me get up? I mean, I remember being out Sunday nights late and getting up Monday morning with the same clothes I had on Friday and going to school, man.
Right.
Sometimes I'd wash them. Sometimes I wouldn't, just because
Yeah.
you're at the mercy of your friend's house and their parents and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's just however it would go, man.
Got it. So, did it ever lead to, where you got in trouble or anything like that in high school, or did that kind of come after you left high school?
Yeah. So
Or at all, I guess I should say.
yeah, I definitely got in trouble later on in life after
it.
high school for sure. But
Okay.
during high school, I think I dodged several bullets, man, for sure, like a ton of them. I just would always make it out somehow. Never really had anything too traumatic happen. Well, I will say, I there was a few traumatic things when I was a little bit younger in middle school, but I didn't really have anything bad happen to me. Aside from I did lose my dad when I was 16, so that was kind of a
Sheesh, yeah.
traumatic thing that happened just because I just started talking to him again. And
Yeah, that's tough.
when I just was on, I think it was summer break going from 7th to 8th grade, I got shot in the back. Yeah, it was a drive-by. It was just kind of crazy,
No
man.
way.
Yeah, so
Man.
these things weren't like, I wasn't directly involved with. There were things that happened, you know, I was a victim to it, essentially. I just didn't have anything that I didn't play a direct role in any of those things that happened to me.
Right.
Until until I graduated, I would say.
Just rekindling the relationship.
For sure, man. I would say I didn't necessarily start getting over it, and it's not like I really went through much. It's just more of confusion for the longest time because I didn't know much about my dad, in terms of, aside from him just kind of being a drunk and, amongst other things, just, people said he was a good dude,
Right.
but just had a drinking problem. So from that, I didn't know if I should hate him or if I should love him or what. When he passed, it was like whatever. But until I got older and you start looking for guidance that you'd probably ask your father for. So I'd look for it in people who ironically would be business owners.
Mm-hmm.
Being that I'm a business owner now, I feel like I confided in a lot of business owners that I worked for advice that they didn't necessarily even need to give me. So,
Right.
Or they didn't, they took some time to help me out, but
Right.
I think that helped me turn into who I was today. So I would say anyone who's going through that is just be careful who you look up to after that, because I think growing up without a father, especially a young man, you're a lot more susceptible to, falling for anything in terms of negativity. So just try to be mindful of who you look up to.
Right. No, that makes sense. And I think, thinking of that in thinking about your family dynamic growing up, I know that's a big thing in today's world of, we're seeing a lot of issues with, in particular demographics, including our demographic, as
Sure.
Hispanics, brown people,
Sure.
sometimes our family dynamic isn't the best. And I have a similar story to yours. And so, I mean, looking back at it now, and I know you have a family of your own, I mean, how big do you think it makes having a father in the home?
Oh man, it's everything, man. I think yin and yang, mom and dad type shit,
Yeah.
'cause,
Yep.
it has to be, man. I just, even with my wife now, she has this comfort, like, that she can bring to my boys that I just can't, or sometimes that I don't even want to, cause it's not authentic. So I won't, I
Yeah.
won't do anything to them that I'm not going to lie to them. So
Yeah.
I try to, they're 3 and 4, man. So there's only so much I can do, but I'm already trying just because I'm aware of how the brain works and how early, I've seen so many psychiatrists and stuff going through the kind of a legal system that I was required to see because I was in, probation and stuff. So just learning all these things about how the brain works and how, pathways are formed when you're that young. I just,
100%.
I'm really open and, I really think about what I do in front of my kids.
Right.
And that includes what I teach them. So I just try to teach them everything that I want them to learn, even though they don't understand it. So,
Right.
and just model it. So yeah, man, having a father in the home is pivotal, dude. Pivotal.
100%. No, I would say the same. We don't have any kids. We have a cat, so there is some dynamic there.
Yeah.
But I feel like, even just having that father figure, maybe it isn't biological father, things of that nature, but maybe a stepdad, older brother, things of that
Sure.
nature, just having that male father figure.
Yeah, absolutely, man, for sure. Yeah, because I mean, especially in today's life, there's a lot of confusion on people just put men down a lot lately, and
Right.
I mean, I'm not afraid to say it. I see it all the time,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, it happens to be the opposite sex a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say everybody, for sure it's not everybody, but it's kind of people are scared to be manly and to have
Yep.
To be aggressive and just to be everything we've always been. And I'm not saying you should be out there being a jerk and not taking care of business, but I think definitely you should feel comfortable in being aggressive, being dominant,
Right.
to a certain extent, and competing and just being a man.
Right.
So yeah, I think just men just don't get praised enough. So
Right.
yeah,
No, I agree. I think, even when we have younger brothers or sons or whatever it may be, really bringing out that masculinity, even though some people say there's toxic masculinity or, whatever terms they try and put on it nowadays. I
sure.
think, we see that that's a necessary part of us just as humans, part of the family dynamic.
Right.
You, like you said, the yin and yang. I think you need everything to be able to operate,
For sure.
functionally. I know that kind of sounds more of like a machine type thing, but
Yeah.
in a way, us as humans, us, the way we interact, everything, it's part of this cycle. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
when you have something missing, it's pretty tough.
I agree, man. I think anything can be toxic. I mean, toxic masculinity is probably a thing, but I think there can be
Yeah.
toxic and anything, man. I've seen it. And I've also been in places where, like, if you're not strong, you'll get eaten alive, man. I mean, so I think, and that's just even in high school, man. If you're not strong, you could be in a locker room, playing football, and if you're not a tough kid, you might get, picked on. You just got to have tough skin these days, and
Right.
you got to be compassionate at the same time. I just, I think all of it's good. All of it's good for everyone, and us. To add to that even more, like, I'm nothing without my wife. Like, I really
100%.
care about, women and protecting women and raising my boys to, look after women and to stand up when, to evil in any form.
Right.
So, just to kind of clear the air there, I'm not a misogynist or nothing crazy.
No, I definitely know that.
I am a top G, though. I am a top G.
Heck yeah. I mean, we maybe we'll get into the top G stuff a little bit later, but
dude. I'm here for it.
Okay, so that you went through that experience, which is definitely tough. I know it's a lifelong journey, so to speak. Even for me, I ponder things, but we're in life. We got to keep moving forward. We got to keep progressing, keep growing, all that stuff. And so, you go through those events and life experiences as a child, teenager. You graduate high school. What's next after high school?
Yeah, man. So it's probably my senior year where I just start, this kind of plays into my life after high school.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know where I'm going to go because I know the next step is college. It's all that's ever been played in my mind is you have to go to school, you have to graduate, then you have to go to college,
right,
get a degree. But
Yep.
you have to get scholarships, and if you don't, you need to work your ass off so you could pay for college.
100%.
Well, definitely can't afford college. My mom can't in any way, shape, or form afford at the time for me to go to college. So I'm just in this lost place, man. Like, what am I going to do? My friends got it together. They've been applying for scholarships since they were juniors, just
Right.
doing it right, just doing it the right way.
Yep.
And I'm not going to say I didn't know. I just didn't give a fuck, man,
Yeah.
to be honest. But it started to play a stress. I was a lot more stressed out in high school when I didn't know what I was going to do. So I just started hanging out with the wrong people a little bit more. And I didn't really, like to do the traditional smoking weed like everybody else. So I started kind of dabbling in prescription drugs. And before I knew it, man, it just kind of consumed me, like, really quick.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of led me down a path, in a nutshell, where I landed up catching a case and was on my way to prison. So
Damn.
that was 18 years old, about a year, maybe a few months after I graduated, I catch this case.
Okay, so let's unpack that just a little bit. So you weren't really a big fan of, the weed, marijuana, things of that nature. Like, let me try this. What type of medication were you trying, or pills, or what? How would you frame it in terms of what were you trying?
Yeah, so it was Percocet for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anything that would I mean, at the time, it's just I wasn't educated on what things would do. So anything that would kind of change my mindset, you know.
Got it.
I just a lot of traumatic things that had gone on, you know, while I was in kind of like middle school to high school.
Right.
So I was just using it as something to kind of take the edge off, maybe my anxiety levels, pull it down. And then the other side was just to kind of party. I never liked smoking weed. So, I was doing this as to tell my friends at the time, like, hey, I am high. I'm doing something, you know, like just back off with trying to get me to smoke, because I really didn't like how it made me feel. So it started off as
you're doing
thing.
something,
yeah, just doing something with everybody else, and then.
And did it start in 12th grade or after you left high school?
It was mainly in 12th grade. Yeah.
Got it.
So mainly when I was a senior, and then it just turned into something I liked doing.
Yeah.
And then it turned into something that before I knew it, I was like, I had an addiction problem. And,
right.
You know, no one preps you for the kind of sickness you can get from just being addicted to, especially those kind of drugs.
100%.
And man, it was the worst. It was like everything spiraled after that. I couldn't afford to, you know, keep up with my habits, so just started doing bad things to get money. And you know, it just consumed me at that point. So.
Right. And so you mentioned that eventually you had, you know, a run-in with the law, essentially, pretty much based upon because you had got in this position from, you know, the drugs, essentially.
Yeah.
And it led you to this point to where you had to, you know, deal with the law now. And so what happened that, you know, you ended up having that run-in with the law, and, you know, what kind of happened there?
Yeah. So I committed a robbery, and it kind of turned into an issue where there was a firearm involved.
Got it.
And I mean, without kind of diving into it too much,
right?
We got caught, so
yeah, that makes sense.
Had to go and do the time, man. And at that point, it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me, though. Because I didn't have this super long time where I was doing dope.
Yeah.
And I made a lifestyle out of it, right? I just had this short, maybe year span of doing drugs and just doing bad behavior type stuff. Yeah, because I never stole from anybody growing up. I wasn't that kid.
Right.
I didn't lie. I didn't do all these things, but I had this short span where I ran through all of that.
Right.
And really did it heavier and harder than most people. So that was kind of rough. So at that point, I got arrested, and somebody got badly hurt, and everything turned out fine. But at the end of it, but while that was happening, I mean, I was facing 13 years, and it was a federal case too, because there was a gun involved, so it wasn't like a state case. So
okay, so you're in federal court, all that stuff.
Federal court. I mean, I hit Santa Fe federal holding, and they took me to the Fed building in Albuquerque. And I mean, when you walk into one of those courts, you know this is real. Like, this is not. I mean.
And you're 19, 20 at the time?
I'm still 18.
Oh, you're still 18. Okay.
Yeah, I'm still 18 at that time.
Damn. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, on my way to the big house.
So still a kid, essentially. For everyone watching out there, you know, we still think, you know, when you get older, you know you're still a kid at that age.
No, baby. I mean, you could send somebody in when they're 30 and they're not going to be prepared, man.
Right.
I mean, it's just nothing can prepare you for going in and walking into, you know, the jungle that is behind those walls.
Right.
And we all know how broken the the system is for incarceration. So it's like getting all these wolves out of the den and throwing them all in together and beating the cage and telling them, hey, all you guys get along. It's not how it works.
Right.
So
yeah, especially when a lot of folks, you know, maybe have the drug problem, the mental health problem,
everybody,
all that stuff. Yeah.
And you're throwing us all together. So like, there's no rehabilitation there, man.
Right.
So I didn't know that. So at the time, I'm 18, hit the Fed building, you know, start going through the process. I'm on pretrial, and they send me to a halfway house. So I'm in a halfway house, and then, like, I've never been in Albuquerque, really. Never spent any time in Albuquerque.
And you're in a halfway house in Albuquerque.
Exactly. In the middle of, close to downtown. I mean, zombies everywhere, man.
Yeah.
So no support. My mom didn't want anything to do with me.
Damn.
Family was just like, no, like, you know, I mean, it's not like I had a ton of support anyway.
Yeah.
It's like people, you know, if I wanted to go home, I could go home, but go home to who and what? It was the type of deal when I was growing up. So, you know, at this point, I'm like, I know I don't have anyone. So,
Right.
I start going through that process, and I land up violating my probation, and they send me in, and I'm in holding, get back out on ankle bracelet, and still going through that process. They finally decide to send me in, and so I can wait for sentencing. So I sit in a federal holding for a year before I have to get sentenced, and at that point, I'm in the Fed system, so I'm with a lot of guys who had already did 10 plus years in the state. Like, these guys are seasoned convicts, man. Like, they know it's good. So I'm like, it's just from night.
And what facility was that?
This was all over, man. This was Santa Fe. This was Sandoval, MDC. I hit Estancia was the last holding. Estancia is kind of like this hub before they send you out to prison.
Right.
So it was a prison at the time, so it still ran a lot like a prison.
Got it.
It was a prison at one time, and it's ran like a prison. I don't know if it's still there, but everyone said, yeah, this is basically it's basically
prison. Yeah.
So stayed there, man, and kind of grew up in a really effed up environment, so to speak. So it was the craziest thing, though, because I'm on my way to sentencing, and mind you, there's a year that goes by in there where there's crazy shit happening.
Right.
I mean,
no, I can imagine. Yeah.
People are hitting drugs. People are hurting each other. Like, it's just wild, man. It's just like gladiator school, you know.
Yeah.
So, I'm going through that process. Sentencing's coming up, and I get this one judge in the federal system that everybody says they want because she's the shit, man. Like, she has so much leniency on you. And I remember hearing about her the whole time I'm locked up, you know, all the jailhouse lawyers.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, yeah, this is the one you want. This is what you're going to do. And I'm like, you think you're prepared? Like, I'm going to swindle her. And, you know, I do get her. And I didn't know that my mom and my sister were writing letters. And a few of the family members, they wrote some letters. But she read one of the ones that my sister wrote. Mm-hmm. And
like character letters and all that,
exactly.
support, all
like
that
who
stuff.
I am.
Yeah.
And, you know, I didn't have tattoos at the time. I didn't have anything. And thankfully, I didn't. I was about to get a huge tat on my neck.
Damn. Yeah.
I know. It's crazy. Stupid, man. So stupid.
Yeah. No.
I just wanted to look a little bit more intimidating, man, at the time. So.
Oh, that makes sense given the environment you're in. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, thankfully, I had never had anything bad happen to me, but I was so close. But I said, let me wait till sentencing. Let me go and look clean. And once I get my sentence, I'm thinking 10 years. My lawyer's telling me 10 years. Like, he's like, worst case 7. I mean, best case 7, but worst case 13. That's just, you know.
And just to bring out that legal aspect a little bit, did you have a private attorney or did you have a federal public defender?
Public defender.
Federal public. Okay.
Public pretenders, dude.
Yeah.
Did not care about me. I mean, you know, when I was around him, he was doing it pro bono, so you know, I felt like he cared. But whenever I called to check up, he never knew where anything was. You know, he never made me feel like I was being taken care of.
Right.
And
like you were his client, essentially.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I wasn't paying, so I get it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, man, I mean, like, I'm 18, trying to find somebody to just lean on, you know, and my life's in my lawyer's hands, and he's just telling me, like, just be prepared for 10 years. Get your mind mentally prepared for 10 years. He's prepping me what not to say in jail, how to act, shut the fuck up type stuff. Like, he's prepping me.
How old were you at this point, just for context?
I'm probably 19, going on 20 at this time. Yeah, so I'd went through all that pretrial stuff, and then I go in there, sit in there for a year, and then I'm waiting to get sentenced. So when I walk into court, same feeling, man. It's just crazy, and in the federal system, like, you never really see how crazy immigration is until you go into a federal courthouse, because there's a ton of illegals that have been caught and shipped, and ICE is involved. So, I mean, I'm just tripping out in this nice courtroom, man. I'm just tripping out on how everything is kind of
This is the one downtown Albuquerque, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Got it.
Have you been there?
Yeah.
So I'm just like freaking out, and I'm like the second to last person to get called up out of like 40 people.
Man.
So
I could imagine the nerves sitting there waiting for
I'm stressed out. But I'm like, just please give me 7. You know, I'm like praying for 7. I'll get out. I'll be 26, 27 years old. I'll be good. I'll still have a whole life ahead of me if I'm mentally not fucked.
Right.
So
which we know isn't the case. Which thankfully.
Rarely. I mean, you know the recidivism rate is,
exactly.
Right?
Yep.
It's crazy. I'm pretty sure you know better than I do, but the chances if you go to prison for 3 years or more, the chances of you coming out and being a structured civilian and adapting to the life around you is like it's not good.
Yeah.
The chances are awful.
You're up against the odds for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm up against the odds. I've always been up against them, man. Now I notice them a lot more. But yeah, I mean, at that point, I wouldn't have made it. I don't think I would have got out and been the same. So
you're waiting in the courtroom. You know, you're waiting to get called up. You get called up. You know, what does the judge say?
It's like the strangest thing. She's like, you can see it in her eyes. She's like the sweetest person. And I'm just standing there, and she's talking to the attorney and back and forth, and she's just like, "You're so young." She's like,
100%. And that's what I'm thinking right now too.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I keep asking you, how old are you?
Yeah. She's like, "You're so," and I looked young. Like I probably looked 16, man. I had a baby face. No, I barely have facial hair now, but I didn't have any then. And she's just baffled. Like, why does he have because there's mandatory minimums in the federal system. I'm sure you understand how they work.
Yes, sir.
I don't still understand them, but
neither do I. I'll be honest with that. I mean, it's a whole other realm for me. I don't do criminal law, but I know enough to know what you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's just, there's a ton. There's just a ton of stuff that's being that's on the plate. But essentially, what she gets to is she says, "I'm tired of sending our youth to prison and nothing happens." She said, I can't see this. I can't send this kid. She's telling the DA, "Is there any other option?" And the DA is like, "No, like this kid is yada, yada, you know, just
really going at you." Essentially.
Yeah. He's hammering me, but I had no criminal history before. So that worked in my favor.
Right.
I was in college at the time that I committed the issue, that I, got in trouble for. So that worked in my favor.
Right.
And the letters that she read, because she took the time to read them all.
That's awesome.
The one that my sister wrote really stuck out. So she just said there has to be an alternative. And she said there's a place called Delancey Street. She's like a super big advocate of it's not a rehab. It's essentially like a behavioral modification program, but it's long term.
Got it.
Meaning you're not going to just get this 30-day, 60, 90-day program that you get to go to and then you're free.
Right.
It's a 2-year commitment.
Damn.
So you have to commit to 2 years. But
where's that at? Just for the context.
It's crazy. It's in Espanola.
I figured. That's what I was thinking. Okay.
There and stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But it's a national thing. It started in San Francisco. Mimi Silbert and John Maher started this program way back in the 70s.
Right.
And blew it up. It's nationwide. There's 5 locations everywhere. So it's pretty cool. But like what I've heard about it, especially being in prison or being in jail or holding, whatever you want to call it at the time.
Right.
It's this cult, man. Like they're saying it's a cult. They send people there because people will spend their whole lives there. They'll commit to 2 years and they'll end up spending their whole life there. So
because that's what they get to know. Maybe they get adapted to it. It's a place of comfort.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a guy I was in there with, and I'm jumping, but we'll circle back and I'll tell you how I got
Yeah,
there.
that's fine.
But you can imagine like why you'd stay there a whole life. Imagine your whole life. Imagine being in prison since you're 12, 16, all the way till you're 35, 40 years old. Don't know how a cell phone works. Don't know how anything works.
Right.
Getting out, you don't have no family, nothing. Well, there you can, you'd want to commit your life to that because it's like walking.
That's what
back
you
out
know
to the
at this
jungle.
point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, and they'll take care of you. So, but before I knew that, man, it was. I was like, fuck, I'm gonna have to commit to 2 years. Like, I wish she would have just let me out. Like, I would really have probably got it together. Maybe not. Probably not. I probably wouldn't have got it together. But I was just hoping she'd be like, let them go back to college.
Probation or whatever. Yeah.
I'm like thinking, well, maybe they still let people join the military or something. No, that's not how it worked. So she said, if you can get in there, I'll let you go. And so what happens is, cool, court settled. She says, you have to try to get into that program. I have to write them a letter. They schedule an interview, and I have to go and meet with them.
Yeah.
They're not traveling at this time to come and do interviews where I'm at. So
got it.
They give me a furlough. And what the furlough is where people who don't know is you essentially get to leave the prison that you're at and travel without anyone watching you. Well, the guys, my dumb young ass tells everyone around me, and these guys don't play, man. Their first thing is they said, we need you to bring some shit back in. Like, you're the only, people don't get furloughs, man. Like,
damn.
You need to bring something back in.
Yeah.
And like hinting without saying it, I felt, this wasn't said, but I felt like if I didn't do what they wanted me to do, I was going to come back to a world of chaos.
Right.
Because who gets the chance to leave and then they come back, and who comes back empty-handed? In that life, you don't. You just don't. You're smart enough, even if it's to just make some spare cash in there.
Yeah, they're expecting something at that point.
Yeah, so I'm in this. I finally see a ray of hope. Martha Vasquez, the judge at the time's giving me this small window, this little ray of sunshine.
Shout out Judge Vargas.
Shout out Judge Vasquez.
Yeah,
for sure,
Vasquez.
man.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, she's still doing amazing things like this.
Yeah, she's a great one.
Have you heard of her?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she she's that ray of hope at the time, and I leave, man, and I come back, and I'm telling these guys, it didn't work out. I'm lying to them, freaking out. And for probably 2 months, I still haven't got in, I got in. I lied. I got in. They told me I was accepted, and I was waiting for court. But she was dealing with a court case with her son, I guess. I don't know the details, but
so there's a little backed up the court system essentially.
Yeah, so I thought, cool, to let me in that same day. Nope.
Good
I had to
old
go back
court
for
system,
2 months. Man. And then my mind's changed. So I'm like, cool. I don't have to prepare my mind to be going to prison now. So my mind switched back to this kid who just wanted to get out.
Right.
And man, I swear everything at that point started going crazy. I mean, people were just doing crazy shit in there. A lot of stuff's happening.
So how long after the hearing, when she said if you could get in, to when you actually got in, how long of time was that?
It's probably 2.5 months.
Dang. Yeah. Okay. So you had to do some considerable more time in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
before. Yeah.
Compared to most people, no, that's a day,
Right.
But for me,
and an 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid. Yeah.
A week is a lifetime, So
100%.
I'm just hoping that I can get in. I'm just hoping and praying, and I finally do. They say I could go, but everything happens. I'm on my way to court one morning. It's snowing. Albuquerque court's shut down.
Oh my
everything,
gosh.
I can't get in. Finally, December 13th, Friday the 13th, I get in and start this crazy journey there.
Man, were you 19 or 20 at this point?
I can't really remember. I want to say I was still 19.
Okay.
I think I went into the program 19. I was 20. I was 20 because I think I got out when I was 23. So
23. Okay.
Yeah, I was 20 and a half or something. So I commit to 2 years. Cool program. Learn how to do moving there, which is cool in terms of, because I'm a business owner now in a moving company.
Right.
I learned a ton of things there. Just one is just that I think I was separated from friends and family and culture that I was used to.
Right.
And I got to see all these other people, especially people that in the program that had been in prison for several decades sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
One of my main mentors was he did 33 years in prison.
Damn.
Yeah.
And he was in the program?
Yeah.
Got it.
I mean, and this California State Prison, the crazy shit.
Right.
Dude was rolled with the big gangs.
Sheesh.
So dude was just a wealth of knowledge, but and a wealth of the type of knowledge that I needed to hear instead of having to go through it. Dude, I've been through this. You're not unique. You would just point it to you. You think you have this crazy unique story that you've been through the worst and no one's ever gone through it. It's he would tell me you're not special.
Right.
Your story's not unique. This is every kid's story growing up poor, you know, like
100%.
calm down, like you're not special. So change your shit around, or you're going to ruin your life. And
Right.
just being around people like that who really ruin their lives, or, you know, a good portion of it makes you think. So I stayed in that program for 2.5 years, got out when I was 23, and literally had the clothes on my back.
Man.
Yeah.
I guess in that program, I mean, do you feel like that program saved your life essentially?
Yeah, 100%. And in many ways than I can explain, you know, we'd have to do another podcast to kind of dive into that for sure.
Yeah.
Because what's unique and crazy about that program is everyone in that program, there's no doctors, there's no security, there's no psychiatrists, there's none of that. Every person who's in the program in Espanola right now came in, broke in, drug addict, prostitute, been to prison, all kinds of different things.
Right.
And they essentially grow, commit to more time, and then they become the mentor, so to speak, of the program. So
I see.
it's such a unique program that the ways that it did save my life were not the traditional psychiatrist, like, hey, let's dive deep into your mind, what happened when you were younger. Because I went through all that through the federal system. Like, they require you to go and see a psychiatrist twice a week, 3 times a week. And I mean,
and before we jump off of that,
Yep.
What do you think? What do you think makes that program successful? Not having those professionals, you know, not having that traditional, you know, that talk with a counselor, or, you know, going to meet whoever it might be, you know, the traditional things that we would see maybe in schools, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is it just the fact that you have, maybe it leads back to what we were talking about earlier, you know, the maybe more of a family dynamic, having that stuff? I mean, what do you think, if you just had to pick one thing from that program, what do you think it was that is different from that?
I'm going to say a few things, just to kind of give you like an idea behind it. But the main thing was the straight shots. Like, you had to learn discipline in terms of you weren't able to engage with a person and tell them how you felt, how they made you feel if they offended you on the floor. And what that means is during the day you can't just tell them how you feel.
Right.
You have to hold that until you get to it's a group setting where you walk into a group in the evening for a couple hours, and you're in this group with everybody all your peers.
Right.
And you all get to just go in on each other. Like, and when I say go in, like,
let it out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like you just go in and get in one of those group settings with people that you live with and you're around all day. They'll start telling you stuff that you didn't realize was noticeable to people, like how you act, how you walk, how it just deeper, like,
right.
And they see things that the normal person who doesn't, you know, who isn't addicted to dope and all these things, they see things because they're the same kind of individual.
Right.
So when they tell you that, it means something because there's a lot of truth there. So that was huge. The other thing was just the structure, man. Like, you have to work. I didn't grow up, like, working. My mom didn't make me, like, you know, I never knew what a schedule was. I didn't know what being on time was. People thought it was funny to show up late when I was growing up, and I thought it was funny too. And, like, now I don't think like that. I think it's super disrespectful.
100%.
Having that kind of structure where I was taught, you know, you do what you say you're going to do, you do it right, you do it on time, was super, super, super helpful in everything I do today. So, but there's a ton more. Like I said, those are the main things.
That's awesome. And again, I appreciate you sharing that. I'm sure everybody will appreciate you sharing that. I mean, you know, kind of how that individual mentioned in that program is, you know, we all have a story essentially, but I think, you know, just sharing it could make a difference. And I think, you know, even in programs like that or in this setting, I think it's cool to see what people's background are and then see where they are today. But you had mentioned, you know, you get done with the program, you have the clothes on your back. You know, what's next for Josh?
Yeah, man. So I committed to 2 years, and I also was on probation for 5. So
okay.
I was talking to my probation officers, and since I was sentenced there by the judge for 2 years, I thought, maybe, like, I don't know if I can leave. Like, so when I finished my first commitment of 2 years, I committed to another year. And I thought, if I leave, I'm going to go to prison because it's part of my sentencing. Well, 2.5 years in, I see some probation officers, and they're like, "Hey, how's it going, Josh? How you doing?" I'm like, "Good." I'm like, "Hey, so, if I decided to leave, like, do I go to jail?" They're like, "No, you're done, dude. Like, you served, like, your sentence."
Right.
So I just get this weird itch, man, to want to leave.
Yeah.
Like, and it was the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
It's something I regret. There's very few things I regret, and leaving and just not fulfilling on, my promise, because they kept all their promises.
Right.
And if anything, they didn't give me any promises. They just, it made me better. And they didn't tell me it was going to. They knew that it had faith. The program had faith in me, so I should have stuck it out and did what was right.
Right.
But I didn't. I left, and you think you're gone for this long, right? This isn't a short period of time to me, because I turn 18, I get through all my trouble, and I'm doing prescription drugs, which eventually went to heroin when I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
Doing heroin, so that year's gone, right? Because I'm high, I'm doing bad stuff. It's not really like there was anything that was worth remembering.
Right.
19 in jail, half of 20 I'm in jail. Go to the program for 2.5 years. So roughly about 5 years goes by before I have like a solid mind,
right,
and just a sense of where I need to go and what I want to do. Just a plan, right? So
100%.
I'm the program, and that's what makes me leave. Is like I miss, girls, and I miss friends, and you just start building up this life that you think you deserve, and it's like, no, I would still be in prison,
Yeah.
If I didn't have that opportunity to go there. So
Right.
yeah, I leave, and first thing I do, man, the dumbest shit, never smoke nicotine. First thing I do is go buy a pack of cigarettes. It's already immediately 10 minutes after I leave, I go and buy a pack of cigarettes. I'm like,
Yeah.
So it's just a reality check of how quick things can spiral. So
Yeah.
I think of that, and I go and live with my mom. For a little bit. So, and I start working, and I leave. I stay with my mom for 2 weeks, make enough money to move with my aunt out to Rio Rancho, and still don't have much. Like, I had everything that you get in the program was donated, so I had these like size 14 vans, and they were like really sun bleached.
Oh yeah.
So they were red, and they're like pink at this time. So I meet some cool friends, and like I'm walking out there with, I don't have much, so I'm just coming out with these 3 size too big.
I know how that feels. Yeah.
Shoes, and they're like, he's cool, man. It's just like they were my brother's friends, and like they're Brandon's friends, It's just let him kick it. And, I literally built from there, man, to a point where I had got my CDL in the program, so that was a pretty big
awesome
thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I started driving for doing construction and doing asphalt, so everything that goes in with that, and getting paid crap, man. I wish I would have been valued more for what I brought to the table, because there was no other CDL drivers. I'm making $12 an hour, and it was trash.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful, man. I don't have a car.
Yeah.
I had to pack my own lunch for a little bit, like, you know, when I started. And
you're in the grind mode.
Oh, yeah. Like bottom of the barrel, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, no haircut, just beat.
Yeah.
But I'm $1 million because I hadn't been out. I hadn't been able to, engage with anyone on a non-program aspect.
And I think that's a good point you make, is, you're looking at it as, man, I have my freedom.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter really what I got on, what I have at home or wherever.
Exactly.
I got my freedom.
Yep.
And I think that's a good point for everyone out there is, freedom is huge. And, as we get older and stuff, we start to realize material things aren't really what people make them seem, or how we made them seem in our heads when we were younger, and
for sure.
It sounds like you kind of got your first glimpse of that man, I'm free.
For sure. Yeah, that was it. And just blessed to have a place to stay. My aunt and uncle, they didn't need to. And, they seen me go in and go through all this stuff. I'm a known thief. I'm a known drug addict amongst my family. And, I get out of this program, and everyone side-eyes you 100%. Everyone's like,
they don't want any of that.
What's he gonna do?
Yeah.
But they took the chance, and it was nice because the chance benefited. I'd like to think it benefited both sides in terms of they helped me, build, you know, who I am today. And now if they call me, I'm there. Like, and there's
Right.
not anytime I won't be there for anyone that's helped me along that path. And,
Question on that. Do you feel like you had to prove yourself a little bit, though, given what had happened?
I still feel like I have to prove myself.
100%.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
still feel like I have to prove myself in terms of, I don't relate to, a lot of people with, I think that's what makes me an entrepreneur. Cause a lot of entrepreneurs they don't fit in, you know, they're that square peg.
Yeah, they're the outlier.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's hard for me to talk about just the normal things. So, you know, I mean, a lot of my past is built on crazy shit, and that's what made me who I am today. So,
Yeah.
like, if people are like, "Well, how did you become this?" And I'm like, "Crazy thing is, I learned how to do moving and rehab," and they're just like, "What the fuck?" Like, it blows their mind.
Yeah.
Like, and I think it's hilarious,
Right.
and I still do, but who can relate to that? Like,
Right.
it's like, I mean, how many people can? It's hard. So, trying to make them like, oh shit, you're an ex-drug addict or you're a convict. It's trying to get them to like remember, no, like that stuff I've been through, you know, like look at me for the person I am and what I've accomplished. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
okay, you start working, you start driving, all that stuff. As we know from the intro, you know, you own multiple businesses. When did you start in business? And what was the first business you started?
Sure. Yeah. So, well, what happens from there is it's about 2 more years. You know, I go through the process of working for people. The good thing is I got to work with business owners. Everybody I worked for was a business owner. So, I got to see the ins and outs. I'd see them get there early, leave late. And I just always thought like, man, I want to do that. Like, so I just pay attention. I'd listen when I was in the truck with the boss. I wasn't on my phone. He would be talking about shit he was going through, and he'd be pissed off. And I'd hear, and I'm just like it sounds cool. Like, this dude's problem solving. He's pissed off, but like, I just thought it was cool, man. Like, how can I help type stuff? And he wouldn't share, you know, what he was going through, but it's just being a fly on the wall. So that helped for sure. And when I finally started. I like to say when I finally started making money, to be able to afford to kind of invest in some of these businesses is when I started I worked for a solar company, and the solar company at the time was the smallest one. I mean, there was probably 5 employees, 7 employees, and I was the 8th, you know, whatever at that time.
Right.
And the business owner at the time, was referred to me by a mutual friend, and I called him. I'm like, hey man, I know you're hiring for an installer on the roofs. I bring more to the table. I can talk. I can do whatever. I can, you know, do office work. And he's like, no, like he was just straight up. No, like I'm hiring for this. You could do that, or like go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like
straight up.
I was more like I'll prove you wrong, motherfucker. Like that's how I felt. And so I quit my driving job, took a pay cut to go and work for a guy that I was pissed off at and how he treated me in the interview. Because, I mean, he was right. You know, like, I'm not going to come in and tell me where you're going to work. So,
So you're like, you know, let me get in first, and then I could slowly make my way.
I knew if I had a chance to grow, a lot of these companies, these people had already been working there for, you know, 10 years. So they were in line. I just couldn't beat the time that they had been there. So a new company is like, oh, great. Like, I can grow at this. So,
and how old were you at this time?
24,
23,
24. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
so you hop in the solar company, you hop in that job. He says, that's all I got. And
I do everything. I do everything there. Yeah. So I start installing, learn the processes. They're doing everything on paper. I'm super millennial, man. I mean, I'm not the best with, you know, technology, but I definitely use it to my advantage, especially with working. So, I mean, they were using a drone to fly for marketing, and I was using it to actually survey jobs. Like, I just built processes in my mind that I thought were shortcuts, but would still get the same result. And
100%.
It didn't take 10 people to do. You could have one person do. So, it was cool. He just let me kind of do my own thing. Just kept giving me raise after raise after raise.
That's awesome.
And I mean, I go from, you know, making $15 an hour to being salaried at six figures.
Yeah.
$100,000. And I'm like, and this is over the course of like a year and a half.
Damn. Yeah, that's a good acceleration. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I'm just super grateful, right? I'm
Yeah.
super grateful. So I'm devoted and committed to this company. And the great thing is when you watch it grow, it's growing. So at the time, by the time I became a general manager, I mean, we probably have 40 plus employees.
Damn. So you started with like 5, right?
Exactly. So a lot of the guys that were above me too, they quit. So
Man.
I'm like top 5 in the company, 40 employees or so. And I'm privy to all the inner, deals of how a business operates.
Right.
That's financials, that's credit cards, like that's just anything, right? Getting lines of credit, just anything that goes into business, I'm privy to because it has to kind of cross my eyes for me to kind of say, how much do we need a loan for? How much do we need a line of credit for? What type of vehicles do we need? What's the interest rate?
You're overseeing operations, all that stuff.
And I don't know how to do all this.
Right.
So I'm literally on Google when I get emails like, hey, Josh, what's this? I'm like, what is that? So I'm like, I'm typing in,
Right.
what are they asking me?
Right.
Trying to figure out whatever the situation was. And I'm literally learning as it grows. And when I first started, they did $500K in revenue that first year. Then they go from 500 to 3 million. Then from 3 million, they hit 9.
Damn.
And then from 9, they go to 18. And this is year after year.
Right.
So by the time
so they're just on an upward trajectory.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't have enough experience to appreciate the growth. I'm just thinking like, yeah, we do this. Like it was normal to me because I'd never experienced it. So we're growing.
Let me ask you, when you went into that job, where do you think you got the mindset of, yeah, maybe I don't know everything that I know I could prove to this individual going into the job, but I know I could do it. What gave you that? What do you think it was where you learned that confidence, that mindset to say, no, I could prove I could do this? Where do you think that comes from? I just,
I'm big on, I've always wanted to lead, man. I've always wanted to, if there was, and that's leading in any type of, in any form, right?
Yeah.
I'm big on, I don't always need to be the person that walks at the front. I like to walk to the back and make sure that everybody else is keeping up.
Right.
And that's just how I grew up. I don't know where I got it. I think it's just, you
feel it was like something you were born with to a certain extent, like innate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's more of like I never was given the opportunity to do anything in leadership when I was younger. I was never trusted. Like, it's just my word was never valued. It just didn't feel like anyone was like took me serious, right?
Right.
So as an adult, I can meet anyone and tell them I'm this, and whether they know it's true or not.
Right.
Like essentially, they're gonna believe you until you do something that like proves yourself wrong. So I just would act as if until I became like type of deal. So I would act as if I was a good manager, and I did everything. I did the research, and when I say research, it's not school research. I watched the videos on YouTube. I Googled. I did everything I could to learn what
the new education, new school education.
Exactly. I mean, I think it's just as good in some areas.
If not better.
I mean, you can learn a ton, man, just by engaging with people. And then I just was not afraid to ask. Like when this guy hired me, he knew I was a felon.
Right.
I told him everything up front, so there was never surprises.
Mm-hmm.
So every time he promoted me, he knew who he was promoting. It's not like I came in and I lied on my resume and said, I have degrees and I'm qualified. I was never qualified. He knew that. So it wasn't like I couldn't make a mistake and he wouldn't like help me figure it out because he knew I didn't know. He didn't know either. He didn't know where he was taking this thing. So it was just the perfect storm, so to speak.
When do you think he realized that, okay, I remember him saying this, how soon do you think he realized like, oh, okay, he's really doing what he said?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like he's always just been the type of person that's I think he didn't just take chances on me. He still takes chances on people. When I talk to him.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And he's been screwed over so many times.
That's part of it too, But sometimes like, you learn along the way. Yeah.
It doesn't stop him from taking chances on people, and it's worked in his favor, 10 times over. So what was nice about the whole situation was he sold the company at the 5-year mark. So he did an employee stock ownership plan, or, the stock option plan, ESOP, with the company, sold the company to the employees. The company got a loan to buy him out. And when he left, he had a CEO and a CFO.
Right.
And that's all you needed at the time to run the company, really.
Right.
But I was the only person who knew the operations as well as he did, if not better.
COO.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So before he left, he had made a CEO who was perfect for that position. The CFO had all the financial, education behind him. And he didn't need to make this position for me because I would have done the job regardless. But he made the position of COO before he left, so that I was able to, be in the C-suite. So
I didn't even know that. I just guessed. So I figured,
So I was,
that's funny.
I was an executive,
and
I was on the board of directors for this company, and man, it was good for a little bit. And when I say a little bit, it was good for like another year. And we just had this rapid growth, and COVID came into play.
Oh.
And there was just a ton of stress. Yeah. And being that we did the employee stock option plan, we essentially had to start a new LLC. So we didn't have so many years of, through the Secretary of State, or what is it called when you have, I guess we didn't have history as with the LLC. So we weren't able to get the type of loans we were getting before, or lines of credit. So as the executive, I was the only person in that company who was willing to put my name as a personal guarantor on some loans for us to get equipment and stuff.
Damn.
And that's how devoted I was to this company.
Yeah.
And through all that, you learn, before I decided I wanted to sign, I was getting educated from everyone. I mean, we got business coaches. We were spending upwards of, 15 to 20 grand a month for business coaches.
Right.
Because we had all these people who weren't qualified for their roles. And
business coaches work, guys.
Yes, they do.
Mentors work.
Yeah. And I was the most unqualified person.
Right.
So like I benefited. I mean, I went against the grain because when you have I thought I had this perfect structure and infrastructure for how, what we could build on. And it wasn't, man.
Yeah.
And being young and just arrogant.
That makes sense.
It's hard for me to let somebody come in who actually knows and tell me,
right,
you're doing this all wrong. Like you're going to crash
eventually. Yeah, it's working now, but
not to mention like the HR type of stuff. Like we weren't doing interviews properly.
Yeah,
we didn't know. So we were setting ourselves up for lawsuits. They could have came.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
How old were you at this point?
I'm like 26.
26. Okay.
Yeah.
So they make the change in the business. How much longer do you stay there? And then kind of what happens from there?
I stayed there for probably about another year and a half. And so we get to a point where we have these bonus structures because we're all owners, right?
Right.
There's not an actual owner. We're getting all this new money. Not to mention the PPP loan that came in with COVID. Like there's a ton of stuff that's going on.
Right.
Employee retention credits, all that stuff
right.
we're getting. And so we just get a ton of money. And instead of properly investing it into whether it's paying off the note we had with the person who sold us the business or whatever it may be, we say, hey, let's create a bonus structure for the employees. Everyone can bonus as long as we hit certain benchmarks.
Right.
Well, I was in a position where I managed all of operations, which at this time was over 100 employees.
Damn. That's not easy.
No, man. That
is not easy.
I'm sorry. I lied there. So the whole business in total was over 100 employees. Operations was about 70. We had the sales team, which I wasn't overseeing. They were W-2 employees too. So
right. That makes sense.
With them, it was over 100. So still 70 employees is 70 employees, man.
Right. Yeah, you're pretty much there anyway. Yeah,
and it's all over the state. So including El Paso, Las Cruces, Roswell, Albuquerque, Yeah, we had all of that. And so I'm in this category where my bonus structure as an executive, I can hit easily because it's based on the company as a whole.
Yeah.
And the sales benchmarks were easily hit because they could sell anything. And when I say they didn't have any structure on how they sold the jobs, so they could sell a shitty job and they would still count towards their bonus structure. But operations was the benchmarks were built on profitability.
Right.
So if you're a sales guy and I'm operations and you sell a shitty job that doesn't leave us room to profit, well, we come and do the job. No matter how good we do it, we still couldn't profit. You still get your bonus because you sold it, but I don't get mine because you fucked us.
Yeah.
So that's how it was built, right?
So it wasn't benefiting the business as a whole, so to speak.
Exactly. So operations was suffering. And I was privy to all of this.
Yeah.
And I knew this, and I understood it, and I thought I was still getting my bonuses, though. And I just was getting these guilty fat checks.
Yeah.
Fat checks. I mean, one of them was upwards of $40,000.
Damn, yeah, that's a nice
quarter,
bonus. Yeah.
In a quarter. So
yeah.
I'm like, I'm getting it. I feel good, but I know it's not sustainable. Just for my mental, just for how I want to live my life. You know?
Right. You knew something had to change, essentially.
Yeah, and so I'm battling at this point. I start battling with the CEO, and this, you know, I'm going to say this too. I'm not the superhero in this story.
Right.
I'm not the victim either. Everyone has their own truth. This is just mine.
Right.
I'm not saying that my truth is more accurate than anyone else's, because I know I played roles that, you know, I made decisions that weren't beneficial to the business too. And I own up to them. So this is my truth, my story.
Yeah,
but,
that makes sense.
I'm not saying it's correct or that it's accurate, you know, and it's the best truth. It's, you know, I don't, it's hard to see what you do, especially in the past.
Yeah.
So there's probably decisions I made that weren't beneficial in there. You know, it made me
it's all a learning process. And you guys got through it. Yeah.
But I decided, you know, man, that year, cleared some good money, man. Really good money. And I just kept talking to my wife, like, I just don't want to do this no more. Like, there's all these people that I'm telling them, keep holding on, you'll get your bonus. I'm trying to motivate them, knowing that there's no way for them to bonus. And I'm working them like dogs. And knowing that there's no benefit coming at the end of it.
Right.
I just felt bad, man. So
I hear you.
I decided to step down.
Yeah.
And when I stepped down, I was still personal guarantor on those notes. So I had a nice separation package, which was good. I wanted to sell, and I started selling solar.
Right.
Because the sales guys at the time were making $300K a year, and that was the median level.
Yeah.
These guys are killing it, and I could hang with them. I've always been able to sell solar. That was one aspect that I didn't have any say in, but I learned, and that was how to sell solar, how to structure deals, how to just beat people out. I knew everything about it.
Right. So would you say throughout this whole experience, you know, with the solar company, you know, you came in as pretty much entry-level employee.
Exactly.
You know, you started just jumping in, you know, sink or swim sort of thing. Started learning operations, HR, you know, everything A to Z in a business.
Everything.
You became the COO. One thing I like to point out there is, you know, you were an intrapreneur, so to speak, you know, rather than an entrepreneur. And usually what that is, you know, you might not be the complete owner, but you're still acting as an entrepreneur within the business.
Exactly.
So it sounds like that's what you did. And that's interesting because I find a lot of people that go off to start their business take that track.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting. And I'm glad you did it. Definitely.
Yeah. No, that's 100% correct. Cause I didn't realize I just cared. I wanted to make the dude who gave me a chance happy, because he became like one of my great friends.
That's awesome.
And, like he, you know, I just wanted to take care of his business like I would do anyone's, like in any situation.
Right.
So saving $1 here or doing what I could,
you
know, just gave me this ability to apply it in my everyday life after. And I didn't even know it was happening.
Right.
So I learned, you know, he would send me emails, do this, do that.
Yeah.
And I'd say, cool. I'd say, I'll get on it. And I'd try to mental note it.
Oh, yeah. I learned that too.
Man, so he told me, he's like, I will fucking demote you. And like, if you keep telling me you're going to do stuff and then you don't do it, he's like,
yeah,
you have to figure out a way to honor what you say you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. I just don't know how. Like, how do you do it? And he's like, he's not going to pamper me
Yeah.
through the whole way through. So I would just, simple thing everybody does now that, after I learned it was, I'd open that email and I'd close it again, and it was always there for when I was ready to do it.
Right.
And then the schedule, like I'd miss appointments and I couldn't do that. So now my schedule's everything.
Start calendaring, and you started
Everything.
doing anything to help you.
My calendar's packed right now.
Yeah.
And I tell people, like, even my good friends are like, let's go to the gym. I'm like, what time? They're like, I don't know, in the morning. I'm like, what time though? Like, please be specific.
Right.
And they're like, I don't know, bro, like 8. And I'm like, cool. And I'm like, make sure we're there at 8 though,
because I have something else. Yeah.
Well, I might get a call, and it's just the life I live now.
Yep.
And it's so hard for people to understand how that can be, because
right.
you run wild sometimes.
Yeah. No, and that's the life, and okay, so sounds like you end up leaving the company, and then you're having that discussion with your wife. I mean,
so
kind of what happens after that?
Yeah, so I decide to step down, and then they say, hey, we think it'd be better if we just cut ties all the way. So
right.
I'm sad. I'm actually betrayed. I feel betrayed at the time, because they say, so people stepped forward and said, like, you created a toxic work environment, different things like that.
Yeah.
And
those things start happening at those points.
Yeah, I mean, when I step down, everyone wants to come forward. But again, I don't know what their truth is. So my truth is how I can honestly say that, yes, I was motivated, and I did have a higher salary, and I was pushy in terms of get this done and just hitting deadlines and just trying to keep the company going the best way I could. So I could see if it created a toxic environment, but I never, blatantly disrespected somebody, or never had any kind of like weird, like, no sexual harassment things, nothing like that.
Yeah, it was just kind of more of
you're abrasive, like you're kind of crazy, and
which we all get told.
I can say, I'm cool with that. Like, I'll own that 1,000% every day. So, that year before I decide I want to step down, I'm on my way to buy a Tesla. I'm in my mind, the Plaid S, I'm ready, dude. I'm like, I'm ready. It's in my mind.
Yeah.
And I say, I don't think I'm going to be here. So I decide to take the money I was going to put towards it and buy a box truck.
Nice.
So I have this box truck that I'm not even using yet, just sitting there. When I step down, I thought, cool, I can sell solar, start this company slow, and still support my wife, who's pregnant with my second child at the time, and we already have one who's not even a year old yet.
Right. Damn. So you're in the midst. I got to do something. Dude. Yeah.
They cut me, and I'm like, I can practically go get a job at any solar company. So I wasn't terribly worried, but I was like, F this, dude. Like, we have a pretty good savings. Like, I'm going to ride it out and to the last dollar. And she's about to graduate from dental hygiene school. So she's like, do what you have to do. Very supportive. Very just there for me through the whole thing.
Right.
And she said, like, if you can't, we can survive till May when I graduate. I'll go work. You can stay home with the kids. I'm like, cool. Like, I need a break too.
Yeah.
Like, cause I had it's like I owned the business, cause I operated the solar company like I owned it.
Right.
So, I have the moving company.
So you started the moving company at that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had already had the LLC started with the Secretary of State since 2019. At this time, it's 2021.
Okay.
I'm 27 or so at the time, something like that.
And that's JP Moving, right? Just for everyone out there, JP Moving.
Yep,
Got it.
Yep. Yeah. So, I decided to jump in full time, and I'm like, I don't know anywhere how to get it off the ground. I know how to run it. Yeah. Because I know how to run a business now. I know how to hire people. I know where to do it. I just don't know how to get it off the ground. So
100%.
Freaking out. I know I got all the proper, I thought was the proper insurance and licensing. which turned into an issue later. But before that, I just said, F it, I'm gonna run my own ads on Facebook.
Right.
So post this rinky dink picture of me and another guy, and the back is jacked up, but it was like lawn furniture, so it didn't need to be protected, so it just looked like crap. Yeah. And people started hitting it like, hey, can we get this? I'm like, and I post the most like uninviting thing that, or I post, let me just tell you what I post. I posted, we're doing last minute moves, call us if you need one done. So like, not bad. It's not something I would entertain now because I know how to get leads. Yeah. But at the time, you take whatever you can get.
Yeah, you're getting going, yeah.
And you got the bottom of the barrel type leads. Yeah. So we were showing up and, moving wood and like, dog poop everywhere, like stuff I'd turn down now. Right. But then it's just what we had to do.
Yeah, had to get going.
So I offered a guy a salary, 40 hours a week, regardless if he got it or not. And I just had a partner to do the moves with. Yeah. And I'm like, if I could get 2 moves a week for 6 months, I'll be good. Like, we'll be good. I can afford everything. Right. Like, within a matter of 2 weeks, the pandemic, it was post, shut down. Yeah. So the housing market's going crazy. Yeah. Little do I know. I'm not even thinking of that. Dude. Yeah. So I just start.
It was just perfect timing.
Google page. Yeah. Yeah. Just, it all worked out, man. Yeah. God's good. God is good. Right. And just start getting a ton of calls. Not to mention, we're doing good work because I'd already been a mover. Yeah. I know how to move. The guy I was working with was a mover as well. Right. And we start cranking them out, and I just start hiring. Would rent trucks, bought another truck, and our first year in business, I said, if I can make it to $50,000 in revenue, I'll be stoked. And yeah. I was projecting that, so I was like, well, if I can hit $100,000 in revenue, I'll be even more stoked. Right. First year, not even a full year, $350K revenue. Just nice. Killed it.
That's awesome.
In the midst of all kinds of crazy stuff, I secured a contract with the local public schools. That was huge.
That's awesome.
And we just ran through it, man. I just wasn't scared. And I was even served a cease and desist letter by the New Mexico PRC.
Oh, shit.
Because I didn't know I needed to register with them.
Right.
I was on vacation in Houston. Well, I didn't move out to Houston. Yeah. Turned it into a vacation. Right. And they're like, you need a cease and desist, or we're going to hit you with $40,000 in fines. And I'm like, yeah, you guys are high. Hung up on them. No, they kept calling. And I was like, oh, shit. So I looked them up.
Yeah. Sure enough.
Didn't realize I needed a PRC number. So cease and desist for 2 months. Did stuff under the radar. And got it going, and so through that process, we ran through 2022. Mm-hmm. It was a good year. 23 was kind of rough, but through that, I knew I wanted to do solar. Right. So, I meet up with the old owner of the company he had sold, and it's 23 at the time, and he says, hey, we should start a solar company together. I'm like, that you'd never ask. Like, let's do it.
Finally, yeah.
Yeah, he sees what I'm doing with moving. Yeah. Because we're blowing up. Yeah. People are starting to know us. We got
just for an idea, you started the moving in 21. I know you had it open since 19, but you started really, that first post on Facebook was 21. Yep. And then through 23, when he approaches you for the solar company, just to give, some inspiration and hope out there of, maybe someone starting their journey on the entrepreneurial route. I know it's popular now and some people are facing that the hard way. Right. It's not easy. Right. But what is possible, how good was the moving company doing? You don't have to give exact numbers, but what was your guys' best year, just within that short period of time?
Yeah, our best year is 22, and I don't mind. Numbers ain't like, I like to be fully transparent.
Okay, cool.
So we did $606,000 in revenue. That was our second year.
Damn.
So that was over $500,000, man. And and I was still focused on wanting to start the solar company, so I wasn't trying to expand. So 23 took a little bit of dip in revenue. But we're projecting roughly about 675 this year, so a little bit more. But the housing market,
but you went up quick,
yeah. We 3 trucks. We have 8 employees. my wife actually helps me run the business. It wouldn't even
That's
be
awesome.
possible without her. She really does.
Wives save the day.
Yeah, she's seen me and she's like, why don't you let me answer calls?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what you're asking me, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you did this and if you got it down, you would do great. Like, it would free up so much of my time.
Yeah.
And now she does it, and she
awesome.
always says, like, I don't know how you kept the schedule filled while you're on moves, because I would literally be carrying pieces with the phone in my hand and just booking moves. Like, yep, I'll call you right back. I just had everything dialed in. I'd send people a template through text message of all the information I need. I'd send them a quick invoice for a deposit. I'd book them, and I'd leave it.
Right.
And they were always like, we didn't think you guys were going to show up. Like, we had movers lined up because you just sounded like
it was too quick.
Yeah, well, you just sound like you're not. It wasn't professional. It wasn't a loud truck. Like, so
right.
When she started answering, I'm not the friendliest.
You got a little
person
more
sometimes.
credibility or whatever.
Yeah, she has the sweetest voice, man.
Yeah.
Like, she's stoked to answer. Hi, I'm like, what can I do for you? Like, yeah, I just wanted to inquire. Hey, get to it. Like, tell me what you need, and I'll give you pricing. So it just wasn't a good look for me.
No, I hear you.
But people loved us, you know, like we'd show up and people loved us. But kind of went off on a tangent. What was your question?
So you grow it to that revenue, which is awesome.
Yep.
You know, I just want to give that, you know, for inspiration out there that, you know, you could take off quick, you know, just depends on, you know, how you approach it. What, of course, the work you put in, all those types of things.
Yep.
Okay. So, you're doing well with JP Moving. Then you get approached by your old partner, so to speak, or old business owner, so to speak, in solar again.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you guys get something going. So
we start Rio Grande Solar Company, and we're stoked. I'm stoked because he's like, you name it, you do whatever. Like, he don't care. Dude just knows he's gonna be successful anywhere, and he really is that kind of guy.
Right.
So he's good at what he does. So I'm stoked, man. I'm planning for it. Well, the company that he sold happens to be going out of business right when we were just about to start.
Oh, I see.
So
and this is the same company you left, correct?
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly. So we have a ton of history there. Him more so because he sold the company.
Right.
I mean, he still had a note when they left. They still, owed him, and I felt kind of bad for that.
Right.
He decides to take a step back. So he says, hey, I decided I'm not going to go into New Mexico. It's just not a good look. My first company that I ever started there is, taking a dive, and it's not obviously because of him. He had nothing to do with it anymore. But
right.
So I'm sad, man, because I put my business on hold so that I would be prepared, like lining everything up, literally handing over everything to my wife, who's going to run the company. I'm stoked. I'm like, you're going to run this, and I'll run a new company. We're going to kill it.
Right.
So it didn't go as planned. And so he decided to back out, transfer all the stuff over, have this pharmaceutical guy call me and say he owns Rio Grande Renewables and he's going to sue me if I don't change the name. And
damn.
I'm like, I'm going through it, man.
Yeah.
And I'm like telling this dude, like, go fuck yourself, dude. Like, it's not even close. It's Rio Grande Solar Company, Rio Grande Renewables. Like, you don't even do residential stuff. So I look him up on LinkedIn, and he's kind of big time. So I'm like, even if I wanted to fight with him, he could probably afford to send me to court. I can't afford to be back and forth like that. Not to mention my time. So I said, fuck it, man. I changed it. I'm like, and I think my partner was still with me at the time. We were like, what's the most uncommon name no one has? And we're like, Green Chili Solar. Fuck it. Like, Green Chili Solar. It sounds corny, but I really don't care because
I think it's awesome, to be honest.
I mean, it's now the more I say it and the more I see it, the more I hear it, the more I like it. But when we initially said,
and from just from a legal standpoint too, the IP, I mean, it's going to be pretty easily, able to protect because it's off of what it actually is,
Exactly.
So Green Chili Solar, I mean,
it's a specific thing. Yeah, exactly.
So that makes sense.
Yeah, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, we just had like an idea too in the back of my mind. I'm like, we'll start Red Chili Roofing.
There you go.
That'd
be pretty sick, actually.
Don't take that.
You can't take it.
Yeah. So, but
it's recorded, so we have evidence.
It's a lawyer right here.
Yeah.
So we went through that motion, man, and he backs out. I'm I want to kill it. I'm literally about to kill it. And, I decided, heck with it. I'm gonna run through it as best as I can.
Right.
I'll give it 3 months and see what I can do. And I get enough jobs to run it. So that's the top of this year.
That's awesome.
So we start doing some jobs, and I'm starting to get people calling for maintenance on their systems.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say maintenance, you get a lot of companies that go out of business, especially in the solar industry. So what happens is they have these orphan systems. Yeah. So these people have these orphan systems that need maintenance. It's like a car, right? You know, if it breaks down, who's going to fix it? Well, most companies in New Mexico right now will not touch an existing system. Mm. One, just because they don't want to deal with the warranty claims. Two, there's not a ton of money in it.
Right.
For me, I was thinking, well, I'm going to run and do all these systems and help these people get their stuff back online. Mm-hmm. And maybe I'll get a referral out of it, or maybe I'll get some reviews and I'll start popping up better on Google. And that's actually helped, and it kept my revenue going. I mean, I had low overhead, but essentially it's paid the bills, not to mention the solar systems the new solar systems I am installing, I am able to make a small profit. So with that, right now we're on track to do about $250K in revenue this year with just that business.
Awesome.
Which solar's like really high revenue and small profit margins.
Right. Especially when you're doing the maintenance and all that stuff.
Yeah, like the newer systems, like, you know, the average system could be $25,000. So you just do, 12 of those and you've already hit,
big ticket items, essentially.
Exactly. So it looks like that's a lot. It's still very small compared to, most solar companies. But for me, it's great, man. I would never imagine to be able to do these things. And, just learning everything. I work with Brianna with the social media, just understanding Google and how to advertise on there. And not to mention the experience.
Shout out Clarity Multimedia.
Yep, exactly. So just, where I'm trying to go now is what I'm trying to jump into now is just kind of I have a story to tell as far as just stuff that I've went through and how, people who've gone through similar things can go through it. And it's nothing unique. It's not anything special. It's just my story. And I think, one thing I'm big on is kind of moral restitution, so to speak. So I've done a lot of bad things. So I feel like there's plenty of ways I can make up for them. That's one is like the main thing is just being a great father.
100%.
And teaching my kids to be great people so that there's more great people in this world. But just the other side is just helping anywhere I can, whether that be, speaking to youth, speaking at anywhere. I want to speak at colleges. I want to speak anywhere I can and just let people know, like, what I'm doing. And I'm not just this person who's searching to be an influencer. Like, I really have the receipts to back up what I've done and where I've come from.
100%.
And it's kind of big for me. And that's where I'm headed. I don't know how I'm going to get there. But when you hit me up and you're like, hey, let's do this, I want to get into it because, I'm a talker, man.
Yeah. No, I get you. And that's great. I mean, we'll definitely keep an eye out in that venture in terms of, how you're going to make that transition, to add that to your portfolio, so to speak.
For sure.
And that's kind of how it was with me. I have, the business side, all that stuff. But I think, I came to a realization that you have to share at some point. You can't hoard everything, whether it's information, money, material, whatever it is. You got to go out into the world. Sounds like you're a man of faith as well, like me. So, you got to go spread the good word,
Definitely.
Whether it's God's word, which I think you should do.
Yep.
But, what we do, in our professional lives, what we've learned, just to help people out, at the end of the day. And I think that's what it's about. So.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what I want to do it for. And on the same hand, though, I am a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. I'd love to get paid to do this shit.
100%. Yep.
I would love to because I feel like there's stuff I can bring to the table. But I'm 31 right now. I feel like I'm just tapping into who I can become, and I have a really, really supportive wife, and that's
I know
what
how
makes
that
it,
is.
yeah,
Yep.
that's what makes it a lot easier, because she's like, whatever you want to do, you know. I'm like, one day I'm like, let's just move to Austin, and she's
Right.
like, let's just go. I'm like, maybe you should hold me back a little
Yeah,
bit, you know?
yeah.
But
Push back a little bit sometimes.
yeah.
I guess for, the people that are starting in their businesses, or, maybe they are an entrepreneur like you were, what do you think is I guess I'll ask you two questions. One, what do you think is the best thing about being an entrepreneur, in your
Sure.
opinion?
Yeah. So, if I'm, there's two ways I can answer this. One
Mhm.
is, just my truth, and then the other is if I'm speaking to somebody who maybe want to, pursue something in business or starting their own thing.
Right.
For me, the main thing is just for me, and what I like it for is I like to do what the fuck I want to do, man.
Mhm.
Just straight up. It's just if I have an idea, I like to fulfill on that idea the way I want to. I don't,
Right.
and it may not make sense to anybody.
Right.
And if that means I go in and bump my head and, I scrape my knees and it fails, like, I don't even care. It doesn't bother me. I'm not going to have somebody else's money on the line, or
Right.
I'm not going to have their,
Livelihood or whatever.
Exactly. So if I want to invest in something that's going to fucking fail,
Yeah. Yeah.
or it has a really high potential to fail,
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. It's not a thing to me anymore. It's just that I want to live how the fuck I want to live.
Yeah.
I'm a felon. I don't, politics is, doesn't work in my favor most of the time. Sometimes it usually works around felons. You don't really have so much of a say. So I've accepted that. And,
Right.
it's just like, I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. Like, I still have the ability to go out and make $1 the same way anybody else does.
Right.
And it's cool, man. Like, having that kind of background doesn't limit how far I can go with being a business owner.
Right.
And that's what I like about it. The freedom, for sure. But
Got it.
for an individual,
Yeah.
I would say, just being able to be creative. There's a creative
like that.
aspect to owning a business, and that's
Right.
designing it. And you can, to a certain extent, you can tell your employees you want them to for people to perceive your company this way. So
Right.
they should try to, explain what we do this way.
Right.
And that can be anything. I mean, we have the Roadrunner on our truck. A lot of people don't use that in New Mexico, which I love.
Right.
Because we stick out.
Which
a
is
little bit more.
surprising.
Yeah, it's wild. And we
You see
use
the Zia, I guess, a lot.
yeah. So the Z is huge, or
Yeah.
different things like that. But you can explore a creative side of who you are, and tap into it a little bit more, because it's yours. Like
100%.
you can't do that in somebody else's workplace.
Right.
It's their vision. You have to live in it. But I will say this: God creates number 2 people out there a lot of the time.
Right.
And he creates number 1s.
Right.
In terms of, it's okay to be a number 2. A lot of people think, hey, I need to jump into life
100%.
and be a number 1, and it's going to make things better. And a lot of times it doesn't.
Yeah, they might hate it.
Yeah, and it's okay to be a number 2. Like,
Right.
It's okay to sit second place to somebody and let them steer the ship. You don't always need to steer the ship.
Right.
So,
100%.
Because, I mean, if God created you to be number 2 and you're going to spend your life trying to be a number 1, it's going to be miserable, because being an entrepreneur is, or a business owner, it can be taxing.
Right.
Unless you like that shit. And
Yeah.
I fucking like that shit.
Yeah,
like,
same.
I wake up, I'll send myself emails at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And my wife's like, why are you sending us emails? And I'm like, because I woke up and I remembered this and I
Yeah.
almost forgot it.
Yeah.
And she's like, you're crazy. I'm like, I know, it's fucking dope. Like,
And
I
a lot of
actually
people
like
get that,
shit.
that's how they get, they get the crazy label. But I think, if you, I think you're big on listening to, some of the bigger names in podcasting, businesses, all
sure.
that, that's something they always were getting told, you're
Yeah.
crazy, you're crazy, you're crazy. And it's like, oh, I think I'm on the right path then.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's just
So-
that it goes back to the number 2s, man. Like, sometimes, a lot of people won't be successful without those number 2s, and it's okay.
100%.
Like, you don't always need to be that person.
Right.
So I just want to say that at any point in my life, if there was an opportunity that benefited me more to be a number two, I would gladly take that position, and I would be fine with letting the ship be steered by somebody else.
Yeah, I think I've realized that too, from, maybe like kind of like you had a similar story, I like to say from the mail room to the owner.
Right.
I'm always willing still to take out the trash, but I'm also
Always.
willing to do, what else we got to do at the top, so to speak. But same, likewise, man, I think it's to each their own, what makes you fulfilled, if you're going to, one thing for me that really got me to start my business was getting out of bed in the morning. I know it's cliche and, but it's for me, it legitimately what happened, I just didn't want to get out of the bed and go to work and do this and do that. And
Sure.
And then when I switched the light on, essentially, in my opinion, I was jumping out of bed.
That makes a whole lot different. Yeah.
So
makes things different. Just I think, we think work, but I try to wake up and I try to push myself to inspire people,
right.
whether that be anything. I try to motivate people. I try to bring people up around me.
Right.
My tribe is always it's gonna go up with me. I don't like to leave people behind. So,
100%.
If that means me sticking at the bottom for a little bit longer, that's cool. I'm cool with that. Like,
right.
I just try to take care of mine.
I guess the flip side I'd ask you is, what's the worst thing about being an entrepreneur or business owner, in your opinion, in your experience? I
think the limitations you put on yourself because you don't have self-confidence. I don't think there's anything bad about being an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
I think
I like that, actually, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything bad. I think there's only so much room to grow, and develop and innovate, and there's no boundaries. That's what's beautiful about it. You could be however big you want to fucking be,
mm-hmm.
and if you want to keep it tight niche and small and make an honest living, cool.
Right.
Have at it. But I think you gain, you have self-esteem issues for sure.
Right.
You have confidence issues because you're essentially bringing an idea to fruition.
Right.
So
especially when you're starting, no money, none of that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't take loans out for this. Everything's been personally funded, right? Like,
right.
I didn't have a passed down business. I didn't have an uncle who passed and left me a nice penny. Like, it's not how the fuck, like, this happened for me. Yeah. So, there's a lot of, self-esteem issues I have sometimes with.
No, I hear you.
I have these big visions, and not to mention when you tell them to people, they think you're fucking crazy.
Yeah, they're like, that's cool.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I just, it's hard for me to not think I might be crazy. Like, this might not be, you second guess yourself. So I think that's the worst part. Mm-hmm. And that's a me issue essentially, but I think it happens more to people who want to start a business because you don't start it I don't think you plan to start to just do it yourself. I think you want to see where you can take it. It doesn't always mean growth and revenue and numbers and all this. It could just be like, maybe you want to offer more services.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to,
give a different service or whatever.
Exactly. So
do it your way, kind of how you mentioned,
exactly.
And it might not be that it's the better way or the, maybe the quote unquote right way, so to speak. But I think having that slack, so to speak, or how you want to do it, or paving the way. A lot of stuff is original nowadays, and some stuff isn't. But
for sure.
Would you say, because I know this happens, to me even to this day every so often. Like you said, you start to question yourself. What am I doing? Should I even continue? When you're laying in your bed or on the couch or you're driving in the car alone, and those thoughts start to come into your head, what do you, how do you get through it? Because it's easy to spiral, for sure. I mean, for someone that's dealing with that as a business owner, what do you, how do you deal with it, and what would you give them any advice to get through it?
I entertain that shit. Yeah. I really entertain those thoughts. Yeah. So I'm not going to say like you should shut those out, because I think if you're having thoughts like that, you should entertain them, but be confident in your own judgment enough to like listen and make the right decision. So listen to your intuition, essentially. Right. Because it happens to me all the time. I mean, it almost happens to me daily. Right. Recently, last year in January, I listed my moving company to be sold, and got a valuation, close to $500,000, and I wanted to sell, and I'm really big about putting into something. I'm really big, but taking out time for myself is I haven't done. So
I'm the same way.
I think I need to be better about that.
Same.
But it drove me to a spot where I'm like, it'll be nice if I sell. I mean, I could sell, pay off my house, literally have no bills. And who can say that at 30 years old,
Right. Very rare.
At the time. Yeah. Like who can pay off all their bills and have a beautiful home and have no issues and have a nice little chunk for retirement still. Like at 30, no one can. So that was part of the reason why I wanted to do it. And that was the thought that creeped in. It's like, you could sell, pay off everything, and you'll be good.
But then the entrepreneurship kicked in.
I mean, it stayed like that for a while.
Yeah.
But then I started getting people who, I got an offer, and one of the guys really made me think, like, he wasn't going to take the name. He was just buying the employees, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
He was going to buy the company from me, limit me from coming back in, so having a non-compete.
Yeah.
And
oh man,
it made me second guess, like, is that where I want to go? Is that what I want to do?
Yeah.
Take the kind of safe way out. The goal was always to sell to pay off my house.
Yeah.
I thought I'll start a moving company and I'll sell it to pay off my house.
Hey.
And then that was dope. And now that I know I can, you think differently, right?
Yeah. Once you're there, things change.
Yeah. So those were thoughts that creeped in. Back to your question.
Yeah.
Those are thoughts that creeped in. So now what I do is I entertain everything daily, man. So there's people that are coming in, and I have 2 guys on the table right now that would like to buy my business. So I'm taking it slowly day by day, but the more I think about it, I think by next year I'll have revenue close to doubled.
Right.
So if I sold now, but I could double up on revenue next year, essentially that'd be double what I would sell the business for next year. And that's a year away.
Right.
And do we need to sell? No, like we're good. So I entertain it, man. I mean, I entertain those things that come to your mind and you're kind of, worried about it. But just have enough confidence, know yourself, talk to God. Pray on it. Literally sit there and think about it. Like just think about it. Your mind's so powerful. Your gut's powerful. Like you'll make the right choices. But whatever you do, live with that shit. Don't live in regret.
Yeah, and I'd echo that, man. I mean, like you said, you kind of walk yourself through it. Okay. You, for whatever reason, that thought popped in your head, like, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I stop? Should I just go be a number 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, like you said. But then you're like, okay, well, why am I doing this? You walk through it, you entertain the thought, like you said, and I think sometimes you'll for me, it's been like, okay, I understand why I'm here. And, you kind of have like a relief. Yeah. Like, oh, I'm glad I had those thoughts. I know why I'm here again.
For sure.
But then sometimes, there are entrepreneurs out there that, they maybe say, yeah, maybe it is time for me to hang up the hat, And so I think that's great advice. It's don't avoid it. Definitely don't avoid it.
Yeah.
Entertain it and just, have the confidence, keep going. And if, like you said, you'll know when you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing. Yeah.
Just surround yourself too. Like, I talk to people who there's not a ton of business owners that I know, especially in moving, but the ones that I do, I'm fully transparent. I'll tell them the offers I've got, and I get their feedback and like, what would you do? And they're like, wow, when you see it on paper, it's different. Like, I can understand why you're going through this, but I think you should. I don't think you should, Josh. Like, I think you should. Keep going, man. You have something great. Like, it could be greater. Like, don't sell yourself short. And I listen to that because they're your friends. I mean, they understand they have similar businesses or the same thing. So, I just listen, man. I really try to, I backseat myself a lot and try to listen to people, younger or older. And it helps for sure.
Right. And next thing I'd ask you is, do you feel now looking back on your story, where you're at, in my opinion, you're highly successful, very young still, the older cats would probably say we're still babies.
For sure.
So, I mean, do you think, looking back, thinking of all of that, I mean, what do you think is next for you? I mean, do you feel like you're going to continue on the path? or it's more of, let's wait and see, or yeah, I know you gave a little glimpse earlier of something else you have an interest in.
Sure.
But I mean, looking back, what do you think is next on the road?
Sure. That's a great question, man. I don't know. It changes daily for me. It will literally change daily for me in terms of sometimes I consider moving to Texas. Austin looks dope right now.
I hear you there for
And,
sure.
That's literally something I've weighed and really have considered doing. But then there's I want to grow JP Moving a little bit more. I want to put a location in Santa Fe, and the green chili solar side of things that has so much potential to be great.
Right.
Just because I'm really good at it. And I don't say that like being arrogant. I mean it in terms of I have the receipts to show that I've ran a successful company.
Right. And I think that's important when you're picking an industry. Are you even good at it?
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, you have to know it. You have to love it. You have to understand it. You have to be able to, you have to. It's like people. Every time I've bought a car, I ask the person who's selling me the vehicle, "Do you own this brand of vehicle?"
Yeah.
And if they say no, it's hard for me to gauge. Like, now you're lying.
How are you selling it? Yeah.
So every person
that's
I
a
sell
good
solar
question.
to,
Yeah.
every person I sell a solar to, I pull out my phone and I show them my systems that I've had on several houses that I've had.
Yeah.
And
you don't. It's like you don't use your own product, sort of thing.
Yeah. Dude, I drink out of the same pool I tell you to swim in. So same thing. So,
yeah.
Where were we going with that?
I guess I think I could lead it into this would be
what
what
am I gonna do?
Yeah.
So right as of today, man, because people like Josh, you just told me something different. I just wanna the main thing for me is play a super huge role in my kid's life. So if that means growing the business, I could still be involved with their lives 100%.
That's awesome.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
But if I have to take a few steps back and just coast out what I already have, because it's going great,
right,
I'm going to do that. But aside from that, I need to get my businesses healthy, keep them healthy, and we'll see where it goes from there.
That's awesome, man. I guess I'll leave you with one final question. Again, looking back at everything and, what you've accomplished, and you're still very early in the journey. I mean, do you feel like you were, and I think you touched on it a little bit, do you feel like you were born to do what you're doing today? I mean, do you feel, because I feel a lot of people struggle with finding what their purpose is in life. And I feel like, we all find it in unique ways, and you definitely have a great story in how you got there and where you are today. The story's far from being written. You're still in it.
Yep.
But, I mean, do you think you were born to do this, so to speak?
I don't know, man. Some days I wake up and I feel like there's something else I need to be doing. It's like a constant soul search type of deal. But I feel like I'm exactly where I need to be. So
I like it.
I don't know. I do feel like there's more
that
I don't, like God's going to say when I'm ready, when my family's ready, we'll be tasked with something. Cause I feel like everything that I'm doing to this point is everything I've wanted to do.
Right.
And I haven't, been asking God like, hey, send me what you want me to do. Or I haven't
I love it. Yep.
taken extra time to, get out of my, my selfish stuff and give back more, do more shit for people.
Right.
So I think that's an area where I need to cross into, and maybe I'll feel more fulfilled on, I feel like this is what I need to be doing, but I don't know yet, man. I don't know. I just feel like I'm exactly where I need to be.
Heck yeah, man. Well, I would say congrats on all the success so far.
Thanks,
I mean, it's really, even just, looking at each other as colleagues, fellow business owners, friends.
For sure.
All these other areas of life. I mean, I tell this to people all the time, it's inspiring for me to see. I know everybody out there is going to get some value from it.
Yeah, I hope so.
It's a journey, man, and the journey continues. And so I just want to say congratulations again, and we'll keep looking out to see what you're doing. I'm sure we'll have another chat. And, thank you for your time, and just thank you for being a good friend, man, a good business owner.
Thank you, man. Thanks. Invite me back, because I think we can touch on some pretty cool topics that you've been touching on and stuff. And I'm excited for everything you're doing, man. It's, everybody talks about it. You'll hear a lot of people saying, hey, I want to start a podcast. And I've mentioned it.
Right.
And just seeing your setup, it's inspiring, man. And
I appreciate it.
Appreciate you bringing me on, because
For sure.
I've been waiting, man, for somebody to be like, hey, why don't you come and tell this?
Yeah.
What's going on with you? And I'm just waiting. So
Yeah.
it worked out for me. I like this type of setting and just conversating like this.
I appreciate it, man. Well, there you have it, guys. Josh Phillips, business owner, father, husband, and he's going to keep crushing it as always, guys. And we appreciate you watching. Hopefully you got some value. As always, like and subscribe, please. Hit it. Doesn't take that much effort. But as always, if you keep supporting JulioG TV, will keep growing. Until the next one, again, thank you for watching. Peace.
Thanks.